that these cloud computing models really facilitate resource sharing in a way that individual systems never could, and that libraries never would. So application service bar, we talked about that already. Legacy system hosting. And so all of this. This kind of goes to what we just talked about. I would say that going forward, that each of the library types has different, their requirements becoming more different and not more alike. Especially between kind of the pure public and the pure academic, community colleges between. Because are you spending most of your resources on access to scholarly articles, or are you mostly worried about engaging patrons with books? Books and print and ebooks. And I think those are quite different technology challenges to support. School is way different. Special corporate libraries are an entirely different species. It's all about enterprise knowledge management, competitive intelligence. They don't have those. So it's a whole different set of systems and vendors. Already done that. I would say that we can't keep thinking about library automation and the same concepts that we've been doing since 1965. This is my cataloging module. Here's my circulation module. I have a separate interlibrary loan system. I have acquisitions as something else, and so the shape of library, of how you can approach technology has a lot other ways that it could be done. I like to think of fulfillment is what it is that most of our libraries want to do for our patrons. We don't want the patron to decide, is this a circulation transaction? Is this a direct consortial borrowing request? Is this interlibrary loan? Is it document delivery? They just want something. Your environment, shouldn't beg them to answer the question, where is it coming from? Where do you want? Where do you want it? How soon do you need it? And we'll take care of where it comes from. So we're in the business to fulfill information needs of our clients, not to make them jump through a bunch of hoops to different interfaces we choose to put on our web pages. And it's just, they'll never understand our jargon. They'll never understand the way that we present things if we present them all kind of separately and in our own language. Resource management, we're not just cataloging in MARC, we've got digital assets we want to bring in. We want our newspaper collections to be part of our collection that we've described using Dublin Core, some other standard, all kinds of things. We spend a lot of time interacting with customers directly, and how do we manage that? We make ticks at the reference desk. Do we have the kind of customer relationship management that any business would want to have to be able to manage the way it does service delivery and to track the performance of how it does it, so that library managers can make decisions about resource allocation and all those kind of things that they do. We focused our infrastructure on the back of the house instead of the front of the house. And I think that's a serious mistake and continues to be a glaring omission in the realm of library automation. So I hope that some of these next generation systems approach it differently. Do we really have the capability to do enterprise resource planning? Our universities and our city and county governments expect that. How can you account for how you spend your money, and how do you base how you make business decisions and so forth? What kind of ERP capabilities do libraries have? The acquisitions module of the standard ILS is just a shadow of that. It has a small portion of the functionality that businesses mean when they say enterprise resource planning. So, we have been stuck in the 1960s and 70s through the ILS model for a long time, and I would say that's one of the things that hinders the way that libraries use technology for what they want to do. Don't spend much time talking about that. VCLC is very interesting, but I don't want to talk about. Open systems, I think, is the next concept that I think is really important. Libraries no longer feel comfortable buying a black box. You want access to the functionality and the data to do more with the system than the delivered interfaces. Here's your library catalog for your patrons, here's your staff interface, and that's all you get. Nobody's happy with that anymore. You want APIs that allow you to exercise the functionality to do advanced reporting, to do all these other kinds of things to get data in and out of the system in dynamic kinds of ways. So I think right now this is really one of the biggest drivers of what's going to make the next generation of systems successful. On the open source arena, especially as you move to software as a service, where you have a shared customer base, open source isn't really a topic, right? You're not going to have one library saying, I want to be able to get at, the million lines of C code that make the circulation module work, or the fulfillment module work. That is in the realm of software engineering. What we really want our library programmers to do is to be able to work with APIs that are exposed by a system, to be able to make the widget, make the service, make the thing on the website that adds value to the library. I think that there is tremendous interest in open source, but when you look at the modern approach to software delivery, in a way it doesn't matter if it's open source or not, because even if it's community source, it's the developers of the system that exercise access to the source code, not the end users. When you think of a shared code base across multiple institutions, you don't want folks tinkering with it. Right? You expand the functionality, you extend the functionality, you implement the interoperability at the API level, not the business logic level. Yes.
So more and more of what operation of these systems involves is product integration. It's not just getting the most out of your system,
yes.
It's hooking everything else up to it. And I'm just wondering where the tools for that, like SIP, NSIP, ODBC, whatever, do they fit into this, or are they part of another paradigm that you've got on another
it's
side?
kind of there. I don't know if I put in the slide that kind of illustrates that. But we'll continue to want to have systems that are standards compliant. You want to have your self-check system latch in and talk to the system, even if it's delivered software as a service using SIP, SIP2, NSIP, whatever it is your system requires. How you approach data is different. You want a API that says, here, give me all my marked records, or give me all the fields out of this or that. When you have a shared back-end, you don't want to give individual users access to the native databases that probably don't even exist in the same kind of way. You want to provide as strong of access, as open of access to your data, but it's not going to be through the on-premise model. When you have a server in your library, it runs Oracle, you have the schema, you can latch up ODBC and do whatever you want with it. You don't do that if it's a cloud-based service. It's just not consistent with that model. You want the same level of access, but using a different set of tools. And getting back to how you connect things together is that, well, the legacy approach is to have all these different, insane assemblage of components that have to be made to work together, instead of having systems that actually address the functionality you care about.
If the tools work, what is the impetus to change?
What do you mean?
Well, I mean, if you have these client-based system, you're running reports using ODBC drivers and this and that, and it all works, and money's an issue.
So it works just like it used to. I mean, it's the same system. It worked fine in 1992. And it worked, it's not broken for that approach to library management. But is the shape of the thing what it is that you want? Does it allow you to, manage the circulation of ebooks in a way that's integrated with print? Does it provide all these other kind of aspects of modern functionality that you probably care about? I mean, it's fine that it's stable, but is it expanding in the functionality that you expect for the next generation of how you deliver your services? And so as you change systems, then how you look at the technology, is going to be shaped different as well.
I mean, I'm thinking, money's an issue, staffing's an issue, it's just.
So there's,
yeah.
I would say that we have hardwired in one of the most inefficient ways for libraries to use their staff. When you think of the ILS model, it's kind of hardwired in a set of workflows that dictate where you put your people. You've got to have this many catalogers, this many acquisitions librarians, scribes and clerks and all of that. It's all kind of hardwired in. And so I'm looking for something that's a bit more flexible.
Cross-training.
So one of the notes you have there is that we want to improve the customer experience
Yeah.
and whatnot. Some of the service providers, I think, are attempting to do that themselves through the development, essentially personalization tools.
Yeah.
So you can log in, create your ID, et cetera, so that every time you come back, you have to log in and create your own ID to get that environment back up. Do you feel as though there's a lot of future in that? Do you feel as though that's something that,
I don't know.
frankly?
I don't know, is Facebook going to catch on or not? I don't know. No, I think that the model
Facebook is
of having the things that I know how to
limited
do.
level.
Yeah, so that's too extreme. But why, when you sign into the library's website, in the same way that it could remember who you are and give you access to your account, maybe with just, keying in your password just to be sure it's you. We don't offer the same kind of built-in personalization infrastructure. It's always, you have to start from scratch every single time you approach the website, and most commercial websites don't do that. If I buy stuff on Amazon, I go away, come back, even on the computer, it knows it's me, before it lets me buy something, it validates my identity, but in general it knows who I am. And library systems are very primitive when it comes to being able to do that.
But by design, that was what sort of was getting at earlier, is I think that one of the criticisms I hear from some library staff that
You
they'll
hear it from
say-
library staff, you don't hear from library patrons.
Well, yes, you're absolutely right in that.
Patrons want something that looks a bit more like Facebook. Staff worry about all these issues, so how can you do both? You
But
can do both.
it's that they'll complement the searchability of Amazon, being able to target, it finds what I want, not realizing that there's a whole suite of data about them that has been hoovered up that's helping that search, whereas I think libraries have been focused so much on, like you said, clearing out that data so that those transactions are sort of more or less
So-
anonymous.
I would say there's a happy medium in between that. I think libraries deliberately, fail to take advantage of user and use data at their peril. Because we can't deliver the kind of customer experience that our patrons expect if they have to start from, ground zero every time. So how do you protect their privacy, make sure it works within the shared set of library values, yet deliver the experience that I think library patrons would be happier with? I think there are ways to do both, but you've got to kind of work at the problem in that direction, not just start off in the premise that that patron data is private and we're not going to build systems that take advantage of that.
Well, I think that is part of what our issue is that, patron library records are confidential, and we haven't wanted to actually hold on to them.
Well, you hold on to them. I mean, no matter what, you have a patron record that personally identifies that patron, but then how do you expose it? And how do you make sure that you don't expose reading history and things like that? There's ways to do both.
So we actually have a great deal of evidence at UIUC that about 50% of all of our searches are known item searches. Very little of it is actually with the intent of browsing.
Yeah, that come in that way, not necessarily the ones that come in through Google and Google Scholar and that kind of thing.
Well, potentially, sure.
Oh,
We have a great deal of evidence so far from our implementation of Discovery Layer that our patrons do not want to enter in a login ID again. They don't want to create another identity separate from the university's identity for them.
Well, I agree with that.
Separate from all of the other identities that they've created. So given that, I guess where my question is coming from, most of these systems operate, to some extent, outside of the university environment.
You know, why can't the university environment operate as a whole?
They operate.
More and more, they're using, you know, unified login and those kind of things, so that when you log in at all, you log in for the library systems and course management and everything.
But I guess what I'm saying is that most, these discovery layers are not necessarily part of the university.
And why shouldn't they be though? I think they should. You know, because, you know, that's the whole, with enterprise interoperability is kind of one of the main themes. And so if it's going to be part of the academic enterprise, then it can't be yet another silo. It's got to be, you know, kind of well connected with the other business systems and patrons and student and faculty systems. Okay. That. Okay. So when you think about the front door of a library on the web, it's this website. And it is this menu of silos. You look at almost any public or academic library website, you have links to things. So maybe you have a search box, what does that do? Even if you make an effort to not use library jargon, it's almost impossible to come up with the right terms that, patrons will understand and know what they're getting when they click. So, whether you have, this is kind of more oriented toward the academic library, but you look at public library websites, you can kind of see that there's a lot of different links to different things that assume a certain approach, a librarian approach to how to deliver service. Do patrons really figure that out or not? It's a lot of handoffs. So you're in the your website, and then you say, I want to search for books. It kind of hands you off to your online catalog or discovery system that looks different, and it operates different, and it's hard to tell where you came from, and it doesn't know about where you came from, and all those kinds of things. You may even have to sign on with a different user ID and password. And when you go, you find something, you want to request it, and it hands you over to your Iliad system or something, another username and PIN that you have to know. So most library websites involve this series of handoffs for any customer from one thing to another based on what piece of back-end infrastructure is powering it. So nothing is really taking responsibility for the user service. It's just saying, what I can do to hand this customer off to the next thing. And I think that we need to have something that's more integrated on the front end of things. What is the best front door for your collections if you're an academic or a public library? Is it your online catalog? What do you manage in your ILS and what do you not manage in your ILS? You manage MARC records in your ILS. So anything that you care about that a patron might care about that's not represented in the MARC record, they're not going to find if your search box on your website is that. It's not going to find content from your website. When you type in, the name of someone who's been at the library or when the hours are open, you just don't get that out of the search box to your online catalog. If you're an academic library, you don't get articles, so that misses about 90% of what the library pays for. It doesn't get book chapters. It doesn't get newspapers that you've digitized. It's really getting an ever-shrinking portion of what libraries care about if what you offer as your main search box is simply the online catalog. Because it really manages an ever smaller portion of what libraries have. Are your ebooks in it or not? You might have your MARC records that represent your ebooks. Is that the best way? Are you giving all of the features and services associated with those, enabling those to that interface as well? There was this whole genre of next generation catalogs, things like Aqua Browser and Viewfind and those kinds of things that try to improve that experience a bit, give things like faceted navigation, relevancy-based search, things that online catalog search engines weren't very good at doing. The search model was still mostly the same. You could take this local, typically Lucene index, and put your MARC records, your Dublin Core records and digital collections, but then you'd probably use a federated search tool to be able to get at articles and other kinds of things that you don't manage directly. So this was kind of the model for a while. Still is to a certain extent. We're still missing a lot of things. A lot of products out there. So next generation catalogs is more than a decade old now. So, you know, we've been moving away from OPACs for quite a long time. Again, what you need for front-end discovery is quite a bit different if you're a public or academic library. But the main move lately, and it's been a little bit more impacting the academics and publics at this point, but I think that will change as well, is that it's perfectly plausible to take everything that you care about and put it in a single index. Every article, even at the full text level, just index it. You get access to it, you index it, so when you search for it, you'll find it. You know, I think that the universe of content that libraries care about is really only, I used to say 1 billion, it's about 1.5 billion to 2 billion things. You look at the indexes of these products, you know, they're at 1 billion now, typically. I think Summon is at 1.2 billion. And that used to sound like a scary number, and it's a scary number if you've got this processor in your library, but it's not a scary number at all if you're thinking of cloud-based technologies. That you can easily index billions of things using readily available open source search and retrieval technology. SolarLucene is what almost all these are built out of, and it's, you know, it's what very large-scale systems use. So the problem isn't in the technology to index things to actually do find everything that you care about. It's more in kind of getting access to it. So when you think that, you know, you can have a consolidated index that includes all that you care about. MARC records of your ILS, your digital collection records, community information, your website content, all these kinds of things you can pour into a SolarLucene index, and that could be your front door if you want it to be. And then you have to start doing things like paying really good attention to relevancy, making use of use and usage data so that what that customer cares about shows up at the top of the list. So, you know, if you kind of eliminate the ability to know something about who it is that's searching, you know, you really can't do relevancy in a way that will respond to their expectations. And you can use use data in order to be able to identify, well, what's the really most interesting thing? A huge problem is that something about something has more keywords than the thing itself. So my classic example is Harry Potter. If you type Harry Potter into a library catalog, what do you expect to see? The latest Harry Potter book. What do you see in most cases? All the books about Harry Potter, witchcraft and Harry Potter, and all these kinds of thematic works that are about Harry Potter because they have more keywords in the records. So if you only rely on keyword matching, it will almost always fail. You have to use social and use factors to be able to identify the things of most interest. Now, what's circulated the most? You don't even have to expose who borrowed it, but what circulated the most? It's probably the Harry Potter book. That floats it to the top. You know, what articles have the highest impact factor? You know, there's lots of metrics that you can use to kind of hone in on what's interesting and relevant, you know, in a much better way. And then if you know something about the user, you know that if they typed in Mercury and they're an astronomer, they care about the planet and not the chemical or the Roman god. So those are the kinds of things that you can do better if you're willing to exploit data about users. You know, and what an academic one would look like is maybe a different set of content that you pour into it, but the model is basically the same. The problem is a business and political one, is how do you actually get your hands on all that metadata to data and metadata to index? That's kind of one of the business problems the industry faces now. And so more and more of what's indexed is not just a MARC record, but the full text of the thing. A MARC record on average has 250 words, I think. Compare that to the full text of the book. You know, you're getting a lot more access points. So if you hold on to the model that cataloging description is about MARC cataloging, you know, you're missing the boat when it comes to what your true number of access points can be. How do you get the full text into the index and make that part of the search experience? You know, this little thing called HoneyTrust, 3.5 billion pages. This is an old figure. It's in the 4 billion pages now, I think. So, and all of these indexes have tons of full text content by now. We've already talked about the challenges for relevancy. You've really got to pay attention to the social factors in order to make it comprehensive and responsive. Collection coverage, you got to know what you're getting, what's indexed, what's not indexed, at what level, full text, citations, mark, makes a huge difference. How do you evaluate that? And kind of skipping through this because other things I want to talk about. The Open Discovery Initiative is a NISO work group. I'm one of the co-chairs that's working on some of these problems in the industry. But I would say among this group, one of the seminal topics has got to be how you deal with ebooks. If the way that you approach ebooks is the overdrive jettison hatch, escape hatch to overdrive, I would say you're not really making the management and access to ebooks enough of a priority. That you want, when someone signs on to your system, to say, okay, what do I have checked out? I have this many print books, I've got this many ebooks checked out. Well, these, I want to request something and say, is it print or is it an ebook? I don't know, figure it out, and make the right request. Instead of saying, well, I'm here for an ebook, and therefore you're required to just go visit Overdrive, and good luck and goodbye. So it's strategic to be able to bring ebook technology into the experience of the library. I think that's kind of one of the critical library relevancy issues these days. So if, again, staying with the traditional ILS and OPAC, isn't very productive if it doesn't start to bring in, fulfillment and access and discovery of ebooks, which are going to surpass your physical circulations at some point if they haven't already. So I really worry that we need to be able to do this better. Why Readers First is probably one of the most important conversations that's going on in the industry, and the technical work that's being done by Overdrive, 3M, Access 360, Polaris, Circe Dynix, and Innovative, and all of the others, in order to bring all these things into a unified patron experience is really important. If you want to have a traditional catalog, and I'm looking for my print books, well, kind of good luck with that in the future. That, you've got to kind of think about more progressive models, as the future changes out from under us. So, the DRM stuff is maddening, we hate it, but we've got to master it. It's not going to go away. We can't use that as an excuse to making progress. There's plenty of ways to take care of DRM and any of these systems. The APIs are there. So we can't let that be an excuse not to move forward in the way that we build ebook lending into our public interfaces. Oh, so this is a slide that shows who's selling what. Later if you want. So now, any questions with that? I want to at least get through some of this next section before the clock takes all the way down.
You make a very compelling argument about the patron profile, but it's so anti what we've ever thought about, I believe, in this profession, and it's hard to get your mind around how to address it.
Well, it's always a challenge to take library values that we really should hold on to and express them in the modern world. How can you use as much of the identity of patron without crossing the lines that we care about?
Right.
But I think that we stay way back behind the line and are afraid to even get close to it. So technology ought to allow us to get closer, I think. Yes?
The other thing is, we want our discovery systems to be agile and to be able to get all of this, and
Yes.
especially the resources that we're putting so much money into.
Yes.
But there's always a background discussion that we don't want to turn into a Google or a Yahoo search result set. And that's why
Librarians
we're...
say that, patrons
right,
never do.
right.
That's
it.
Did someone who
Right.
used Google ever say, oh, it gave me too much? No. You don't hear that.
But you're not getting the right stuff though in academia, and that's a
Well,
major
so-
issue for us in instruction.
That's right, and it's got to get all better. I mean,
We need that
instructional
balance.
librarians want predictability. You don't get predictability on the web.
No.
you know, you want to make sure that you have high-quality results. And is this search engine, is this discovery system successful at delivering high-quality results? And, you know, that's where the state-of-the-art is being worked out now, I think. They're getting a lot better. They were pretty sloppy before. Right now, the patrons kind of love them, especially the undergraduates, the faculty, librarians, less so, but that's where they have to go next, is to be able to kind of deliver the more advanced kind of functionality as the catalog goes away, especially for the academic libraries that have